Thank you, Frank. As Frank said, my name is Jay Horton. I spell it the right way, J-E-H, not J-A-Y. So you can tell all your friends that are spelling it J-A-Y, they're wrong, they need to fix it. It's actually my initials. My actual name is James Edward Horton. My dad decided they were going to call me Jay and spell it with my initials, but it makes me real easy to find on Spotify. I usually tell a little joke about that right now, but I'm going to skip that tonight and go right to the story. So, as Frank said, I'm a musician, and I play in a band with a guy named Eddie Allen. And last April of 2024, Eddie comes to me and he says, "Hey, man, we're going to do this thing, crypto." He started words like crypto and mine and Texas, and I kind of caught some of it. At that point, I'd heard of Bitcoin, and I'd read an article about the Chinese building a giant Bitcoin mine. So I knew there was some sort of mining thing going on with this crypto deal. I knew that must be a big deal. The Chinese wouldn't have wasted all that money. So I thought, well, you know, maybe I should take a look at this. He says, if you give me $1,000, you might make a bunch of money, you might lose your $1,000. We don't know. And it was such a strong pitch. I said, all right, I'm going to give him $1,000. And, you know, my thought was I'd never been to Vegas and put $1,000 on the baccarat table. I'd never really taken a big gamble. I was at a point in life where I had enough disposable income to try it. So I tried it. So I gave him the money. They sent me some stuff in the mail, which I quickly hid in a file and stuck in a briefcase because I did not tell my wife I spent $1,000. And I hid it away, and about 4 months later, I got COVID and realized, I wonder what's going on with that mine thing. So I call up Eddie. He tells me how to download an app and pull these things out of the file, all of which you can learn later. That's not important. They're just details right now. I don't want to get in the weeds of all that. But I open this viewer up, and I look, and it says I've got $6,800 in this thing. And I'm going, $6,800? I only gave him $1,000. So I called him up, and I said, is this for real? He said, yeah, it's for real. You can sell those coins right now for $6,800. I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, nope. And so I realized, obviously, I had no idea what I'd gotten my hands on. What I had gotten in the middle of is something called Texit coin mining. I hate stuff that doesn't work properly. And that one's brown. Dadgummit. Texit coin mining. I'm not even going to write it down. A guy named Bobby Gray up in McKinney is friends with the guy Eddie that I played in band with. And Bobby had decided years ago he was doing gold and silver. He actually built a mint in McKinney, and he was minting coins. He would buy silver or partner with somebody who had silver, melt the silver down and mint coins. And he decided we needed an honest currency because with the dollar bill, it inflates, right? How many people have been around long enough to watch the dollar bill drop in value dramatically in your lifetime? How many people, this one's working good. Just set it in there. Thank you. So anyway, and you know, a good example is your house. If you bought a house, I bought a house here in 2002. Is it worth $250,000 more than it was when I bought it? Only because honest currency, because you can't just print as many gold and silver things as you want because they're finite. So he started alternative currency, and as he likes to tell it, he was riding his gold and silver horse and buggy, and the Bitcoin rocket went right by him. So he said, well, something's going on with this Bitcoin stuff. He started because gold and silver is a great idea, and people have used them for centuries as currency, but if you're going to buy a car, you need about a wheelbarrow full of silver. So it's a little unwieldy. It just doesn't work that way. So he realized that digital was where we were going, and you know, you have our own cash and not have to rely on the government to provide it for us. So he decided he wanted to do a crypto based in Texas for Texans, Mansfield, to buy stuff from each other with. Where are we in that process? We're just getting started. We don't have enough liquidity. Buy a mine, a group of computers performing complex calculations all day and doing transaction verifications. So he decided, I'm going to take a shot at this. So he sold all of the shops where he'd been minting stuff, he started building these computers and learning how to mine and make a new cryptocurrency that he called Texit coin. If you're into crypto already, that's how you find Texit coin on some of the exchanges that were for sale on, TXC. So what I had gotten a hold of was I had bought into the mining and built it that way. He wanted to give ordinary people the opportunity to be involved. So as Frank said, I was the 20th person. There's some 50,000 of us now. About 32,000 of those people are in what's called my group, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But that's where we've come in a year and a half. Are we done? No, we're at about 21% of the mine. So this thing is still a really great opportunity in my opinion, although it is risky. Anything that has that kind of return is risky. When I say return, what do I mean? Well, I've got a single mine that I bought in my wife's name after I told her that I'd done this. And she goes, I don't guess there's anything I can say. She thought about it a minute. She tried to figure out a way to complain about $6,800, but she couldn't do it. I bought a single mine in her name. It's got about, I bought it in August of 2024. It's got about $45,000 worth of Texit coin in it. A friend of mine who was in here today, I would just call him TD. He's already taken out $3,000 that he put in originally. He bought 3 mines when we did a buy 3 get 1 back in December. And he's got, we were looking at it today, he's got $38,000 in there still after taking his $3,000 out. My friend Pat called me. He bought in April of this year. He called me in July. I walked him through the same process that Eddie walked me through, how to read his wallet, and he had $1,500 in there already off his original $995. So everybody I'm talking about had made what they put into the mine back within a pretty reasonable amount of time, and we're already showing a profit. Now, does that mean it's going to do that over the next year? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. God doesn't come down and put a tablet at the foot of the bed that says Texit coin will be worth $80 in February. I have no way of knowing what it's going to do. I can just tell you what it's done in the past. And the reason it's done that is because it's a new crypto, and people buy and sell cryptos on the open market, and they speculate on them, and it goes up in value. So that's all you really need to know to understand what I understood when I started. Matter of fact, you already know more than I knew when I threw my $995 in. So I want to make sure, I always like to do this at this point in this deal. Everybody understands what you're doing. You're buying into a mine that produces a cryptocurrency every day, and it goes into a wallet that you can sell the cryptocurrency at any time. And the mine is designed to go 135 years. If it quits in 134, feel free to call me. It's designed to go 135 years. If it does what it's done so far and continues to grow, and when we're actually able to use it as downtown dollars and all that, the sky's the limit on what it can be. A friend of mine, I think he might even be here. Is Walter here tonight? No, Walter's not here. Walter's son has a PhD in engineering. He thinks it's going to $7,000. I don't know. I'll be happy if it goes to 7. But right now it started at 2.8 cents a coin when they first released them in May of 2024. Right now it's about 3.80 a coin, give or take. It does go up and down as people speculate on them. That's the main thing you need to understand. You own a piece of this mine. We like to call it a seat on the rocket. And as your piece of the mine creates coins and you get them every day, if they continue to trend up in value, which they have done so far, eventually you have a bunch of money in there. Again, I can't predict what it's going to do. I can just tell you what it's done so far. If you understand that, though, you understand enough to get some more questions answered and decide if you want to do this or not. The next part of this I'm going to talk about is the marketing program, which is probably why you're here. Somebody probably invited you to come check out what we're doing. And there is a marketing program, but you do not have to participate in the marketing program at all. You never have to refer anybody. You never have to tell. You can take your cold storage wallet key, put it in a safe deposit box or in a safe or in your sock drawer or whatever, and never even look at it again until you get bored one day like I did. Or you can tell people, but you don't have to. I want to make sure everybody understands that. Anybody didn't know there was a marketing program, because remember, all Eddie told me was, you might lose your $1,000, you might make some money, we don't know. As soon as I found out I was making money, I started calling my buddies. And the reason I did was, I was scared. I was afraid if I didn't tell my friends I was making money and how I did it, they'd be mad at me for not telling them. So you've heard people fear of missing out. I was fear of missing somebody. So I started calling my running buddies. And do you know who your running buddies are, right? That's the guys you go fishing with, the guys you go on vacation with, the guys you talk to once a week. This is the first year he's been happy in about 6 years. But anyway, I started calling those guys, and I started just telling them what I call a country or a southern fairy tale. Everybody knows how a fairy tale starts out, right? Once upon a time. A southern fairy tale starts out like this. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. So I start telling them my story, and they start buying into the mine. So I get a call from Eddie. Remember Eddie, the guy that told me about this originally? I get a call from him. He says, hey man, you got more mind power. I said, really? Why? He said, well, you referred some people. I said, so if I keep telling people, y'all keep giving me more mind power? He said, yeah. Eddie thinks it ought to be 1, 2, 3 free, because every third person you refer, they give you more mind power. But it's 1, 2 free because that's a little more poetic, and that's what Bobby decided to call it, and he's in charge. So that's one program. And there was another program I didn't know about. The next week, I get another call from Eddie, and he says, hey man, how do you want your bonus? And I said, what bonus? You didn't tell me about a bonus. He said, well, I don't like that thing. It's like Amway or Mary Kay or Avon or something. He said, there's these points, and when you refer people, you get points. When you get enough points, they give you money. So I said, well, how do I get it? He said, well, I can send it to you as crypto. I can send it to you as USDC, named off these different things he could do. He said, or if you want, I can just sell you the money, because at that time we were so small that we didn't really have a lot of formal processes in place. And he sells me money when we play gigs anyway. And I said, well, how much is it? Because I figured it was going to be like $150, right? Because that's, if you refer your friend and they sign up at the bank, they give you $50 and a toaster or whatever. Well, I said, so how much is it? Because I thought if it was $150, I'd say, buy some more of those Texit coins, stick them in that wallet and see what happens. He goes, it's $1,000. So I said, well, sell it to me, because now, because of one little bonus, what do they call that in Vegas? Well, you've already made your money back that you started with. Playing with house money, baby. So since August of last year, a little over 12, 14, 15 months, whatever that is, I've been playing with house money. And I, of course, started really referring people then. As of today, I've referred 125 people. I've built a group of 31,000 people. And I say that to say this. We're only at 21% of the mine. So there's probably going to be 24 people with groups that size before this is over. All you have to do is tell your friends, if they do this, they might make some money. There is a set of rules for how that all works. I'm not going into that. I don't like getting involved in the weeds of the details. If you're interested in how the referral program works, we'll be glad to help you. If you're not interested in that, you just want to buy it and put it in your sock drawer. We love sock drawers too. Just throw it in your sock drawer and sit on it. That's the entire marketing program. The coolest thing about it is, if I did draw it out here, it would kind of look like a pyramid. And I've had people tell me, that's a pyramid scheme. Well, it's not a pyramid scheme, and here's the reason. The most I can make in a bonus for the week is $3,000. This person down here that just got in this week, they can also make $3,000. Even if I haven't had enough points to make, and I do usually have enough points to make about 50 grand a week, I only get to use enough to make the 3,000. That's all I'm allowed to make in a week. That's all anybody's allowed to make in a week. That's what cuts it off. The other big deal that's way different than anything you've seen like this before is You don't have to continue to buy a product. You buy one product, and you're part of this crowdfunding for the next 135 years. You own your part of the mine for the next 135 years. You never have to buy anything else again. There's no maintenance fees. There's no administrative fees. You own it, and it's yours. That's why you don't have to refer people. If you do, they will reward you. I always like to say, and I'm trying to cut this down to where it's less than 15 minutes, so if it feels like this is way shorter than a sermon, it's because I'm not a Baptist. It's actually $9.95 to buy a seat on the rocket. I always like to tell people, $9.95, if that's more money than you can afford to pay without missing your car payment or having your kids eat junk food for the next 6 months, or miss your house payment, or get behind on a credit card, I wouldn't do this. I still think it's a risk. I've made a bunch of money doing it, but I still think it's a risk. So whatever you do, think about it first and make sure that's money that's disposable for you. I had a guy who's bought, you can buy up to 9. They actually have a way that you can buy up to 27 seats on the rocket. Had a guy bought 27 for him, 27 in his wife's name, and 27 of his buddies. The next week he sold another one. He was willing to put a ton of money into this. I think that's just crazy, personally. But he does have an awfully large mine. He's making a lot of Texit coin. So, again, if this number is going to cause you a hardship, don't do this. Don't put money into this you can't afford to lose, because I believe it's a risk still. The other thing I'll say is, if you're a person of faith, you should go home and pray about it. You shouldn't be sinking that kind of money into something without praying about it and being led by the Holy Spirit first. If you're an atheist, throw your money at this. You're ice to gamble anyway. All right, thank you guys. And I'll stick around and answer some questions. Anybody think of one? Really enjoyed that. Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, it's real polished. I worked real hard on that. That's what I enjoyed about it.